Candid
All
Camera.
right, we are now recording.
Oh.
I won't be singing anymore.
No.
Now you're doing that.
No.
Just got you started.
I know.
All right, tonight is August 18th, 2022. This is the meeting of the Webster, New Hampshire Planning Board. First thing we're going to do is record attendance. Let's go around the table.
Susan Young's present.
Adam March present.
Craig Fournier present.
Paul King, present.
Marlo Herrick present.
We're all here. We have a quorum. So we don't need, there are no alternates. I guess the first item is the floodplain, public hearing, floodplain ordinance, site review, subdivision amendment.
Well, the state was supposed to be here, but it doesn't look like they've joined us.
Is that why you're here?
Oh, so.
No.
So we've all heard the speech, so we're gonna make this real short.
Uh-huh.
Since we have nobody here to,
Yeah.
Yeah, are
No.
there any comments? Anybody wanna say anything about this?
no, it just makes sense.
Were you here this?
No, I wasn't really, but
Let me.
Yep,
a
quick,
Quick copy.
yep, that's fine.
Is the state came to us and said, we would like you to update the floodplain ordinance.
Mhm.
And they went through the thing and they outlined the changes that they wanted
In the yellow.
in the yellow.
Okay, figured
And-
that.
And they're,
Wouldn't you say a lot of it's just language?
Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
really change anything,
No.
right? I mean,
I
can we
read
ask
it, but I
that? Yeah.
couldn't, some of it I.
Well, good
it
luck,
was
'cause yeah.
Greek.
yeah,
They were here when they were talking, they would say, you know, I'd say, well, does that change? And it's just, they're updating their language.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
okay, that's cool.
So it was,
Because it's a change to our ordinance, it requires a public hearing, which is what this has been advertised as a public hearing.
Correct.
Yeah,
And the public is here, although I can't quite see them.
so can
I don't know, are there any comments?
No.
I mean, from the board or
we, no, just, it's
somebody
logical.
somebody want to make a motion? I believe this has to be voted on at town meeting, right?
Right. So it's
So
going
all we're
to,
doing is we're approving it
as its final form,
in its final form to be sent to
the vote.
vote.
Does it go on like a warrant article?
Yeah, I'm gonna
Okay.
get the warrant article from the state, and then we'll vote on that later, closer to town meeting, to make sure that's the language we want.
So the warrant article will say, the planning board approved this, so many
so
votes,
they just
so many
change
votes.
in 100 years.
Yeah, yeah.
Basically, that's what that was.
Probably because you no longer can count on
No.
100-year flood.
Once a month.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the changes that the state wants as indicated in this draft statement.
Second.
Discussion?
No?
All in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye,
Okay, that passed 5-0. Okay.
I don't think we're gonna need you, you just made it just in time to end the public hearing. It took 3 minutes.
Thank you for showing up.
Yes, really, yes, thank you.
Nobody showed up for questions, so thank you for coming out, we appreciate it. All right.
Bye-bye.
I don't
Bye.
know if they can see us, aren't we?
Wave bye,
Yeah, right,
everybody.
I was gonna say, I think Ron is the one talking to her.
She's gone. I think.
She's already gone.
Oh, that's funny.
That's all right. We gotta wait I think I'm just gonna send Michelle Tremblay the email because I think we're gonna be there very
5
quickly.
minutes into the meeting, we're slowing down here.
Keep it going, Craig, we know you can do it.
Yeah, let's roll. Right?
All right, code enforcement, inquiry into the definition of recreational vehicle. I don't know if you
That's
saw that.
me, that's me.
You want to, well, first of all, has everybody read that it was included in your packet?
Yep.
Okay, you want to see that?
I didn't have time to put it on PowerPoint, I'm sorry, and I love PowerPoints. But I have pictures. So I live on Cashel Lane, and I have a neighbor who is very close to me in proximity.
What's?
Could you please state your name for the
Oh,
record?
sorry, my name is Jamie Nolan, I live on 7 Cashel Lane. She recently bought a big yellow bus to convert into an RV, and it's probably 5 feet from my property line. You can see it from the main road, you can see it from my kitchen window, it's awful. He also, her other half, also converted a minivan into a pop-up camper, which consists of a, I don't know, makeshift thing that he pops up and puts this tin foil around. I will show you the pictures. I try to keep the neighborhood nice, but I can't.
Can you remind me where
This-
Cashel Lane is?
It's right off Clothespin.
That's what.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I stopped over there on the way over here and took a look at it.
So I just want clarification if they need to be putting up a fence to view that from everybody. That's
Oh.
really more my concern.
This is the pop-up camper, huh?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Oh, I think these are no, they're different.
I mean, it's honest, obviously I'm gonna put up a fence if you guys tell me that she's not responsible for it, and then I'm moving. I'm done. I can't live like that. I came here for beauty and peace, and I see that. I mean, it's pretty bad.
You know the rules on fencing, right?
I actually went down to the town and asked, they said I could put a fence up as long as it wasn't on her property.
Yeah.
And there's no ordinances as to how tall it is, so by God, I'm gonna make that thing as tall as I can if I have to.
The other one,
So-
I believe, is you have to put the good side to her side.
I don't, honestly, I just want it blocked.
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite hideous.
So I took a look at the ordinances that we have regarding recreational vehicles, and I'll just read this. A number of stored large recreational vehicles, RVs, greater than allowed on a residential lot by Article 3, Section 6B of this ordinance may be permitted by special exception, provided that, and there are 2 items under that. The proposed location and use of all such large RVs comply with setback requirements or other provisions of this ordinance and all applicable state regulations. And I don't know, I looked in the ordinance, I didn't see any setback or.
We probably don't
That would
have
be the
any.
50-foot setbacks for the entire town.
Oh, it would be.
Yes, so those are our general setbacks.
50 foot?
50 foot for anything 5 acres or less,
She has .61.
and if
or
it's 100
.66.
acres, it's 100 feet from the front, 50 feet from all the sides.
And B, the second item here is, all such RVs are located or screened from view by abutters and passerbys to the extent that the character of the neighborhood and the values of abutting properties are not adversely affected. So, I mean, that addresses it right there.
Right there, yeah.
Pretty
it's-
much, that's in the nutshell right there, that's how it reads.
So, next question is, what are we gonna do here?
What do they do with these after they get them built? Do they sell them, or they keep them themselves, or?
I think they're there to travel with. She goes to Florida every winter and comes back. And this is what I deal with every summer. So, yeah.
How long has it been there?
The bus has been there maybe 2 months. The minivan has been there since last year. I mean, he took it to Florida and came back.
So it's registered,
They both are registered, but
Okay.
the bus is not inspected to my knowledge.
yeah,
So-
but the other is registered and inspected.
Which I don't know how, because he cut a hole in the roof, but that's not your concern.
Yeah.
So this is maybe not the right question, but when I looked at it, it looked like he might have had room beside the side of his garage to put that bus. Is
Maybe, but then that's not gonna meet setback to Jeff's property.
It's a small one.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it's about 150 feet
I mean,
this way.
that's not our
I mean-
issue, that's not our problem, but I just
Yeah.
wondered.
Have you spoke to them in regards
We
to
don't,
it?
we can't talk to each other.
Oh.
We've had cops, no, we don't talk.
Oh.
No. The beavers ate her trees and she blamed me and called the cops on it, so
What?
we don't talk to each other.
And then she brings a big old yellow
Yes,
bus in.
ma'am, yes, ma'am.
Oh, smart.
So we don't talk, I can't. I
I
did
mean-
everything I needed to do through the cops, and then I came to you guys, cause I
Do you have
had
any
no other way.
suggestions, Russ?
I mean, if we feel it's in violation of the ordinance, we can send them one of the standard letters that you need to cease and desist the action, or go to the ZBA and get your special exception to have it approved within the setback.
That's what makes sense.
I would suspect though, the minivan, you couldn't do anything with that, right? Where it's registered, they use it and,
But isn't it considered a recreational vehicle by definition?
well, I
That's
guess,
the problem.
I guess that is.
So that would be two.
Technically it is, but it also, how,
That
when they
depends.
bought that brand new, and I've been through this with a dump truck, use it for a site truck, insurance don't cover this. That thing was titled, and I had an accident with this truck in the woods, and the insurance, my liability wouldn't cover that, because we were using it for a site truck with no, that's what we were using it for. It wasn't, it was in the woods to boot, it didn't even happen out on the road. And so, like this car, minivan, it's registered as a minivan,
Yep,
and it goes down the road as a minivan.
yep, that's gonna be part of the problem with the
Right.
same thing with the school bus.
Mm-hmm.
It's a school bus, and that's gonna make it dicey. That,
That's all I can say.
Yeah, I
That the
agree
It's got a
with
minivan-
mattress in it.
The minivan, you,
It's the mattress in it, I saw him put it in there.
yeah, but, I mean,
Does it have seats in it?
Yeah, he ripped them all out,
driver's seat and passenger seat,
the driver's seat there.
yeah.
Passenger seats, I think, are all out. He's been ripping everything out. They're in a tarp behind the bus
Yeah.
that everybody can see.
I mean, I'm not trying to be hard, but I'm just saying
No,
that
I
when
know.
it really got right down to it, that thing is registered, it's got a title, and it's still registered probably to the town as a minivan.
Okay.
How about the?
But the bus
school
is more of my
The
concern.
bus, I don't know how that will all shake out.
no,
I mean, that's a school bus, you pick kids up with that, but I know a school bus that
What kind of license is on the school bus?
they ride around with
It's a
too.
plate. I probably have a little picture of it. I took it earlier.
I'm
I was
just
taking all
curious,
kinds of pictures earlier.
because if it's
Yeah.
if it's not registered as a school bus, if it's registered as an RV, then it would fall under the
Right.
ordinance.
Absolutely. But if it's just registered as a 1997 International,
Then he needs a special license to drive it.
no, if it's under 26,000 GVW, he'd be all good. He'd have to have a medical card, no CDL, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
But-
I honestly wasn't expecting to win this battle.
No, no,
I
no, I'm
actually
just-
really wasn't. I was expecting to pick up and move in 9 months. I mean, I'm to the point where I just can't do this anymore
Yeah.
with anything around here. Like I said, I came here for beauty and peace and not that.
Not a school
So,
bus.
Yeah.
I'm done. I will move.
No, that's,
So, is the consensus here that we're gonna send a letter, quoting the same, and saying that,
I mean, we're just, when we send this letter, right, Russ? If we send this letter, we're just quoting what the rules are, correct?
right.
So which I don't feel like we have a right to change right now. I mean, if we wanna change the rules or somebody wants to change the rules, we would need to do that.
Yep.
Yeah,
And I'm one of these people that, you know, you have your land, you should be able to do what you want, but there again, if you move to this town and you should know what the rules are, and the rules say, according to what we have for evidence here, maybe they'll have a different story.
They may.
But they'd have to go to the ZBA and.
Yeah.
Ask
I mean,
for a-
it's coming to us that we're enforcing what the bylaws of the town are at this point. Am I wrong saying that? So, it's not us picking sides, it's not us thinking, oh my God, that's hideous. I
No,
get it, I
because
get it,
pulled
I get it.
I pulled I even pulled the state statutes and everything. So I knew what I was coming into, so I wasn't asking for change, I was asking for.
It should be
here.
enforced. if it's-
That's right.
what does the state statute?
It basically just gave the definition of of RV, which was in your statutes as well.
I would almost suggest that we consult the town attorney and see what he can do legally.
I mean, we could do that.
You can, I mean, but right now, everything, that bus sitting there breaks every rule that somebody wrote. Right? Am I wrong?
Yeah,
I mean, tell
no,
me if
you're
there,
right.
if I, there's
No.
I think
something,
you're right.
I think it's
If
all
it's
gonna boil
five-
down to whether you can prove it's a recreational vehicle or not. Because if we can't prove it's a recreational vehicle, and it's just a school bus, it's a school bus, and we have nothing in our ordinance saying you can't park a school bus in your lot.
If
I mean,
that's
what
right,
was your,
it's
Paul, let me
registered.
ask you another question when you suggested that. What was your thoughts behind asking the attorney? What were you thinking? I mean, granted, I know what Russ is saying with that we'd have to prove it. And there again, maybe that, we don't even take it that far at that point. We're just following what we're seeing. You know, there is a mattress, you can see a mattress, there's
Yeah.
no seats left in the bus, according to you. I mean, granted, maybe there is, maybe, I don't know that.
I'm just looking at some legal thoughts, considering down the road if that person decides to sue the town
For what?
for making him move the bus or whatever we gotta make him do.
Wouldn't they come back with argument to our
Usually that's
to
how
our
it would go
rules?
first, is they would have to talk to the town and see what we were doing and then tell us it's not an RV, and then provide us the fact to
Yeah.
state that it's not an RV.
Okay.
So when it comes back as an RV next year from Florida, I can come back to the town?
And
Because that's what I will do if I'm here.
Oh, and
I'm just making it clear I will if I'm still here and they come back with a full RV on. I'm so coming right back.
We'll be here.
And so will I. If I haven't moved, so will I.
I mean, we're just doing what the
Yeah.
Yep, and
What the
I
rules
just
are.
want the rules obeyed. I mean,
as far as we know, right? We are doing a little assumption, but it looks to
I
that,
mean,
and then they can prove their case if it's
because
not true.
according to this, a motorhome is a portable temporary dwelling used for travel, recreation, vacation, constructed, and it's self-propelled. That fits that. He's got a mattress, he's got a table,
we're-
he's got chairs, I mean.
And we're not arguing with you, you know
No.
what I mean?
Yep.
But all of us have not physically been in it, the pictures are great, but
yeah.
you know what I mean?
I won't go close enough to get pictures of it in it, so.
So let's get back to, I think the solution here is to send a letter. First step
Yeah,
is to send a letter.
Say that it appears that this violates.
Appears that you've converted this school bus to a recreational vehicle, which brings it under the recreational vehicle regulations for the town of Webster, and then cite this. What do you want to say anything about the remedies?
I want a fence.
So
Because that's what they're
the
supposed to do.
way it
if
works is we give them the opportunity to get a variance or a special exception from the ZBA first, because they have the right to appeal. Any decision that any board makes, you have the right to appeal it to the ZBA. And if the ZBA denies it or approves it with rules like they would have to put a fence up, because that's a potential too, then they would have to remedy it to meet those requirements, or they could take us to court after that.
I just don't wanna see it. I mean.
Yep.
It's, I don't care what she does on her land, I just don't wanna see it.
Okay. So are we gonna say anything about the remedies? I mean,
Well,
Yeah,
just
I
if
always
they
put it
can
in
appeal
there.
for a variance.
He said he'll put it in there anyway.
I always put it in there that this is what,
Okay.
these are the
your rights.
remedies, this is what you can do, you can go to the ZBA, you can either remove it or go to the ZBA.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion that we send a letter specifying what we talked about and citing this item 7, recreational vehicles. And Russ can drop according to his
Boilerplate.
whatever.
I'll make it work.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
And I will,
Just wanna make the point.
We'll see
I
what
will draft the
happens.
letter and then I'll email it to the planning board and let you all look at it, and when we get a consensus of what it says, I'll just have people come down and sign it.
Sounds perfect.
Sounds good.
If she comes back, do I come in as well? How does that work?
So
Well,
if
if
it-
she
won't
doesn't
come
come
to us.
back, she'll talk to us.
so if it
Okay.
goes to the
You want-
ZBA, you'll be notified as an abutter that the trial is happening.
And then I can go and I can speak and I
And then
can,
you can speak and make comments.
oh, very well.
Sounds good.
Oh, sorry, you had to come in for that.
I will do whatever you want me to do.
Oh, dear. All right.
I think
Okay, next item.
is Michelle.
So
I
you don't
think.
have to stay, I mean, you can stay
I'm
and
good?
listen if you
I'm
want.
good, okay.
Do you want this, what do you want it?
I have digital copies, you're more than welcome to
Do
keep
you want to
them.
keep this?
Yeah, I'll keep those and I'll put them in the code enforcement file.
Make a little
Good
file.
idea.
Thank you, have a good
Yeah.
night.
You too.
I'm gonna turn this off so Michelle doesn't, we don't have to have a million cameras looking at
So-
everybody.
The next item is,
Hello, Russ.
Hello, if everybody's having problems hearing you or you're having problems, I can turn the mic system on. Is
Oh,
everybody,
you can't hear me?
Yes,
Well,
I can hear
yes, we
you.
can hear you. Can you hear us?
I'm trying to find a place that isn't pitch dark here so I can, turn on the camera. Which sounds like a threat, and it probably is. Okay. A weird angle, I apologize, but thank you for accommodating me on this. And I wanted to have all this information available. So, how would you like to lead in, Craig?
Well, you sent a letter to the board indicating that the town should most likely consider a small, what do you call it? These are rental.
Short-term rental?
Short-term rentals, thank you.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, and I know Russ has done some research on this, and what I'm looking for is for the planning board to consider a short-term rental ordinance, and these range from completely prohibiting them to restrictions on them and requiring a permit. So there are quite a few different options, but that's kind of getting ahead of myself. The reason why I think it would be good for Webster is a couple of reasons. One of them is that people in residential areas or rural residential areas, even some of our more agricultural or forested areas, can find themselves all of a sudden living in an area where it's become a commercial enterprise. So it's not a residence anymore. It turns into rentals a night, a couple of nights, a weekend. It could be a week. But there's a lot of traffic going in and out, and it tends to be different when people are on vacations. They might stay out late, they might have guests over to their rental, and so it really does change the character of a neighborhood. And in the cases where it turns into a party house, this can be an additional load on law enforcement because people around will often call about noise and other disturbances, and ultimately that turns into another burden for the town. I also wanted to mention that right now 1 in 4 homes in the US are being purchased by investors and speculators, and some of these do turn into houses that go into short-term rentals, so they're not purchasing them to flip or for rental as a whole to somebody who might sign a year-long lease. They're going into the kinds of uses that I'm discussing right now, and ultimately that does change the housing market. So if we want people to come to Webster and be members of the community, this will change. It will turn into a situation of rental. So if we imagine, extrapolating, which is not scientific, that 1 in 4 homes to 1 in 4 homes from the US into Webster, you can see how rapidly that would change the character of our town. So, on average, I'm sure that this is pointing more toward urban homes with the statistic that I provided, but it doesn't mean that these investors aren't looking for something where a VRBO or an Airbnb might say, boy, wouldn't it be great to stay at Lake Winnipocket or to have an experience with this beautiful view on Pearson Hill Road, or a variety of other instances. So I guess I'll leave it right there. I'd like the planning board to consider exploring this, because it gets more difficult once this turns into a more widespread use. Like any planning or land use ordinance, it's always better to get out ahead of the use, because as you know, once the use is more endemic, this can be difficult, because then you'll have a large lobby of people who don't want it and aren't considering this is a community, not a gigantic or even a moderate-sized rental market.
Okay, thank you, Michelle.
Okay, and can I ask, Craig, what would be the next steps in a consideration such as this?
Well, we're gonna talk about it among ourselves, the board, and see what the consensus is here.
Okay, and that, I take it, will be a future agenda item, or will you be doing that this evening?
We'll do it tonight, we'll have an informal discussion tonight, see how that goes.
Okay, well then I'll listen in on that, Craig, but I'll go on mute and I'll get my mug off the camera for you.
Okay, thank you, Michelle.
Do we have any regulations? Because I know there are places on Winnipocket you can rent. One or two.
Currently, that is something that came up early in my being here, because people were asking when they bought properties if they could be used for short-term rentals. So of course I called Therese and said, what is the policy in the past? And she said it's not something that's been prohibited in the past, so it's allowed in town currently.
Because it is true, you hear stories about places where people who are using it for a weekend or whatever have no concern about the neighborhood, because it isn't their neighborhood, and that they do tend to, well, party and everything. And it also screws up housing markets in that then that house isn't available for somebody to buy to live in. It becomes a motel.
Right, but on the other hand, they might only be summer homes,
Yep.
and the taxes are big,
Yeah, yeah.
and they need to recoup, some of their money, and to pay their taxes, their insurance bills, and
Yep.
upkeeps, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's probably, it may be an inconvenience to some people, but some people, that's how they
But if it's
pay for it.
not a summer home, if it's a home that is designed to be lived in year-round, then it can become a problem. I mean,
Well, be careful, because a lot of the houses are all designed on, let's just use Winnipocket as an example.
that's
But I think
perfect.
what Addie's saying is to limit people that maybe want to be able to come up for the summer, but need to maybe, rent it in the winter, in the tax base that we do collect. We don't wanna make it also unaffordable. And the other thing I might add is, one thing Michelle was saying is in regards to the police, that may be a discussion with Chief Adams, to see how he feels about it, but, or maybe even what has possibly been, reported, situations like that. I think some of us own townspeople can make our own noise all on our own.
of course.
But that's what I would say on that.
It's like, I wouldn't want to prohibit it completely, but
I know what you're trying to say, but I think the thing of it is like, if I own a house over there and I wanna let my buddies come up for the weekend, I'm paying the taxes, insurance, and all the bills, and if they wanna, and I invite people up to whatever, and it's like you're shutting them down, you're not gonna have to,
there's gotta be some middle road.
Yeah, but you shouldn't have to go get a permit for something like that.
Well, I'm not
And
even
that's where this
suggesting
would be
that.
getting right to, you know what I'm saying? You're heading right to the way of, you're gonna have to go get permission to let you guys come up, go fishing, go out and
Well,
boat. right?
A couple, let me answer that in a second, let me say a few things first. There's a woman, Vicky Davis, who works for the Upper Valley Land Trust Planning Commission. She doesn't work with our town, but anyway, she's been looking at this issue. And she's come up with a list of 32 towns in New Hampshire that have short-term rental regulations. Some of them are obvious things that you know about. Some of them are small towns like Wilmot and New Boston and Freedom. I would say that most of the towns have some kind of natural attractions or something like North Conway or something like that. People want to go there and rent. I see Webster as a bedroom community more than a destination.
Vacation community.
Vacation community, yeah. That's not to say that we don't have rentals and won't have it in the future. But I looked at, she sent me 10 regulations from some of these towns. And I took a quick look through them. See, I only sent them like an hour before
Yeah,
this meeting,
yeah.
so I didn't really
Yeah,
do a quick thing. And I can send them to you if you're interested. But some of them involve, if you, getting a permit, if you want to do not just a one-time rent, but if you want to rent out this property
On a regular
on a
basis.
regular basis, you would need a permit. But then they specify things like, you have to have, it has to be livable, you have to have health and safety standards, you have to have a contact person in the local
Yeah.
community. There's all kinds of stuff to go along with that. So, that's where we're at. I don't know what you wanna do or not do on this one.
Yeah, you don't wanna go overboard and yes, require a permit every time somebody wants.
Well, and what's a little, it all depends on who the permit goes in front of. And what, right?
It
Yeah,
would be
it does.
the, would be the owner of the property.
that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, well, or,
And the
I
thing of
just
it
think
is-
it's a little overreach of
Yeah.
government personally.
I think if the property is used pretty much 90% of the time as short-term rental, that changes things for me from your example, which seems
Yeah.
totally reasonable and
Yeah,
stupid
but-
to have a permit.
Right, but the thing of it is, I think about the Austin camps. Austin's been, this has been here for longer than most people will live in this town. And why should they have to go get permits to do this short-term rental on their camps that they've been renting for 75 years? And all of a sudden you need it just because somebody has an issue with a neighbor. It's not, I can't see it. A permit to, a short-term rental's not gonna fly with me. I just think that, I get what she's coming from down there, and I know what they're trying to do, but I wonder how they like the cows that I just weaned off for 2 weeks.
And they're balling a bit?
That's what they were. The mothers too.
Well, it's like it's true, people who move to the country because they wanna
Right.
live in the country and then they complain about
Right.
the smell of manure.
Right,
Yes.
right. This is
But-
what I'm getting at with the same with this rental thing. It's like these people have had these places, and we're going back years, not just,
Oh, yeah.
she moved down there, what, she been there 10 years now maybe, or whatever, down to Walker Pond. She lived in Bosquen before, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So I'm just going by what, you've got all these people that have been around and doing this forever.
Are there that
And-
many?
Yep, there are a lot of them. Lakeland Pocket has a lot of people that rent out for a short-term
Yep.
deal.
I knew that.
And then there's a lot of people that we invite people up. you know?
And it's got some benefits to it because, I
Well-
mean, a lot of people would love to live on Winnapocket and it's almost
Can't do it.
untouchable, right?
Yeah.
Take that from wherever it comes from, I didn't mean it one way or the other, but it also is stating that they can keep it, they can afford it. And, you know, cause it's not like we give them a break on their taxes, cause they've been there a long time. And, you know, and that, you just would hate to see, too much restriction cause, you know, too many rules and then people say, well, I can't afford it, or, you know, I gotta get rid of it, you know, due to somebody, granted, I think all of us sitting here right now are very reasonable people, but that doesn't always mean what's in the future.
Paul, do you have any thoughts?
Is there really that many complaints in town?
Probably not.
Do we know any of that, Les?
I think there were complaints, I haven't heard any. Maybe the chief has heard of complaints and gone out and responded to people partying, renting properties, but he would know better than I would.
Yeah, and even he gives us monthly report, and that's never on there. It's
Never
usually,
on there, no.
it's usually somebody got
And
pulled
then-
over.
I think
And again, if you send,
Or left the
if you send
mattress
the police
somewhere.
out, they take care of the
Take
problem.
care of it, right.
Yeah,
And the thing of it is, it's like I rent out, I got 4 houses I rent, you know, and if I have issues, I can usually take care of it
You
myself.
take care of it yourself.
Done, right? I got some moving September 1.
but we do have a very adequate,
Right.
police force.
Yeah.
I think that we all are, paying for in our
Yeah.
taxes,
Yep.
And they do a good job.
They do a very good
Yeah.
job, so.
Yeah.
the examples are pretty much completely people who already live in town and are either renting a second property. It's not somebody who lives in Boston and is trying to make money by buying a house in Webster and then renting it out.
Yeah, but I get that.
So
but-
there's-
But
it's
I think what, a lot of these places that are rented, they've done them forever, you know, and I mean, and well, I know a guy that lives in Portsmouth, so, and you know, he comes up, but he rents his house out, but he lives down there, but it's peaceful on the lake, and, you know, that's how he,
Again, if
Pays
there's
his
that kind,
taxes.
that's right, and if there's that kind of problem, we, as the town of Webster, have a very adequate safety department, and we never, I mean, if you read the grapevine, I never see anything about
Yeah.
people really, the disorderly conduct in Webster is really low, actually.
And then, another thing is if you start to get into all kinds of rules and regulations, and then all of a sudden you get into this safety stuff, well then, now we're talking a lot more than just what, you know, some of those places they're old.
Oh, I know.
They're-
I
they
stayed
are
in one.
old. And, you know, they're not gonna be up to like code of 2022. It's not gonna be, so, and to bring it up, I mean, well, that would probably set a few people off that are renting.
Yeah, and then you could have sales, and then you could have a worse problem.
Right,
Yeah, I guess.
I think.
It could
it's
turn its
Circle.
ugly head
Yeah.
in a situation where, you know, and I guess, not still saying that, but like if you had like such a destination, but I think we are a quiet, you know.
It's true, we're
you know,
not, we're not as likely
If
to
people wanna be
get-
rowdy and have a great time, they're coming to the wrong place, cause if somebody calls them, it gets taken care of and
It's-
we move on.
It's true, you know, it hasn't been a problem and taking care
Right.
of it. All it takes, just a couple word of versions, all it takes is one or two bad
Yeah, but
things, and then you're gonna say, man.
We should have done something.
your cops the police department will,
You
They'll
wake up every
handle
day and
that.
put your feet on the floor and say that.
right?
In my express opinion, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's it, you're absolutely
Okay,
correct.
well, I'm getting
Yeah.
the sentiment
You
here.
got it, you got it.
Well, at least a partial sentiment.
Right.
I would do something. I would not want to make it very restrictive, but I also don't, I just hear too many stories of areas where people start with, I'm just gonna rent this now and then it becomes a commercial property. And I wouldn't want that, where it becomes only, where all sorts of people buy places in Webster to rent out because people want to, yeah, but,
but some of those camps over there, they change hands every week,
Oh, I know,
you
but
know?
Yeah, I think too that we are still unique to the fact that there's not a lot for sale in Webster to begin with. It's a lot of family land, and we don't wanna be starting to make government that rules on these people that have supported this town and lived here a long time and have really brought a lot of character to it, so. You know, and when you start throwing rules around, as much as they have a place, it's just, it gets too much.
Who's in charge of doing rentals? Is there anybody in town that does rental,
You know, usually how it all happens is that people that own the house they have, you know, the clientele that some of them have, that I know, every year they'll come back for a week or
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
but there's not a real estate agent,
Okay.
you know,
So
taking
basically,
care of it,
there's
it's
nobody
all, it'd be
nobody
just
in
like you
town.
and me, renting a house for a
Yeah.
couple of weeks and,
So there's no enforcement in town that regulates the rentals?
not yet.
Not yet. And I really don't believe we need one.
no, with you.
The way I'm looking at it, if the police can't handle it, then the select board should step in and, because they are the enforcement body in town,
Yeah.
the select board. We can't do anything.
Well, I guess we got that item taken care of.
You sure did, we nipped that
Do
right in
we
the
have
bud,
to
right
do
off.
anything, do we have to do anything with it, or is?
No, it's just
This
informal.
is just a discussion to see if we
Discussion.
wanted, or we're interested in looking into it further.
Yeah.
If we were Meredith, we'd definitely be looking into it.
Well, yeah, we're talking a lot, you know,
Yeah.
this is a Meredith here.
That's for sure.
So the next item 7 is the driveway letter. I assume that's this one.
That's that one.
Why don't we all just sign this and be done with it?
Well, if you all think it's
Well-
good.
Well, I mean, have you looked at it? Have everybody looked at this?
No,
I
Because Craig
did,
has the signing.
You have the
copy.
official one that we signed?
yes.
Yeah, here.
go for
The
it.
rest of them would have a staple.
Right.
in it.
I always bring a pen, just in
I
case.
know, right?
And have you heard back from the state about the,
Nope, not a peep. I think if I don't hear back by the end of the month, we're gonna have to contact one of our representatives.
and say, we are not getting service back?
No,
From
from
the
you
state.
potentially, we'll draft you nice
You want
little
me-
letter, could you sign
I'd
it and
sign
send it to
that.
this guy?
Can we make a rule for that?
Yeah,
Right here,
we should-
second? I think that's more
I
just
just
than
want-
anything.
That
An
letter-
answer.
There is
I
a
don't-
regulation already.
I personally don't care if it's yes or no, I just wanna know, so I know
Yeah,
where to
you
go
just
from
leave
here.
it.
Just
Yeah.
leave it.
Pass it on.
I mean, of course, we want our resident to get a yes, but
Pen too.
No, I also understand that we, as a board, granted him construction permit,
correct.
but I have not signed it. And I will not sign it until I get the state permit.
Okay.
Do you have a pen?
No, but I bet you Paul would be nice if, let me borrow his,
Well, here,
if I'm
Here,
good.
you can use my pen. As long as I get back, it's one of my favorites. Oh, okay.
So is it,
I know, don't touch
does
it,
he
right?
have too many,
Told us that when we
Yeah.
called.
Yeah, all told us that. But I also understand that I thought I had signed it. No, maybe I didn't.
Okay. You got
I
a
also
hand?
understand that the,
site, your site distance?
No, there's no problem with site.
No,
distance.
I didn't, I looked at it and I didn't think there looked like there would be.
No.
I didn't think there would be.
Oh, yeah, I understand that the town hall, safety building is also having the same problem.
Oh, down here, yeah.
So I could say how that one, I have talked to Emmett about it and we're gonna apply for a waiver from the state, from that rule, cause the engineer's allowed to grant them. And we're gonna put it on the grounds that it's not just for any regular operations, for our safety building, our police and fire, and our police and fire also respond to the surrounding communities. And if there's ever a car accident out front, which there has been at least twice in recent years, which has shut down the safety building, we couldn't respond to an emergency. So,
Certainly a good,
it's certainly a good
rationale.
reason for a waiver.
and if you end up, because I think Marlo, you talked about where the house that needs, being cleaned out, that the driveway across the road, that the select board was talking about closing up, not,
Yeah, cause it's just that little piece.
because then
No.
that would be
No.
one, no?
No, I thought.
Because it has to be the way it was in 1971. We discussed that in the meeting briefly, but
Oh,
it has to be how it is in 1971. So whatever that lot looked like in 1971 has to have the frontage for the cuts, and those two lots weren't connected at that time. So they're two separate lots. And you think our rules are outdated?
Well, I was gonna say, this is what happens though.
Yeah. But that's that one. It's just gonna be a difficult situation. And I think we're working with the same engineer.
Is that good?
no,
No,
clearly not. Maybe he doesn't like Webster.
Could be. We do ask a lot of questions, and he did yell at us when the school paved their parking lot.
Who's the guy's name, Scott?
I don't know.
What
do you
was
know
the
who it
issue
is?
with the
I-
school
I-
paving?
Because the
I've
school
already
didn't get
been
a
there, done
permit.
that.
is he
So they
fun?
yelled at us.
Is he fun?
Oh, it's mean.
Yeah. But anyways, okay.
Okay. Next item. Approval of draft minutes.
I didn't send those timely. I apologize.
I move that we approve the minutes
Not
from
yet,
our,
Not yet, I have a question.
oh, sorry.
On the very first page, planning board members present. Also present were the land use coordinators, Russell, Benjamin DeMille, Katie Nelson, and Jennifer Gilbert.
Yep.
They were not present, they were Zoom, right?
Yes,
So shouldn't that say Zoom on there, via Zoom?
attended virtually if you want it to be
Or
that.
that too, yeah.
I mean, I would consider them to be here because they were here virtually, and
Okay.
it's the same. So that's up to the board. I can add that if you want to amend it so that it notices that they were there virtually.
Sure, let's amend it.
You want to amend it?
Any
Okay.
other suggestions?
No, I'm okay for that.
All right, so
And then I will
move-
do that going forward if somebody attends virtually. I'll
Yeah,
take it
because then
separate.
it's clear. So I move that we approve the minutes as amended to saying that those two people were here via Zoom or virtually.
I'll second that. All in favor? Raise your
Aye.
hand. Aye.
All right.
But,
Are you
I
an
think-
abstainer?
yeah. Yeah.
I wasn't here, so I can't anyway,
But
right?
that's okay, but that is enough to vote to change it. I just,
Yep.
Okay, so we got 3 votes here.
Okay.
Okay,
And there's
now the
one
next-
other small thing,
Excuse me?
is the other last thing,
Yeah, the SIP committee.
the SIP committee.
So, does everybody know what the SIP committee is?
No?
Capital Improvement Program. And that looks at items that are not line item budget items. It looks out 5 years, it's a 5-year plan, what the town wants to spend on their priorities. And every year, we update the 5-year plan. And, so what happens is there's a citizen committee. And, the citizen committee will meet with, Dana and Emmett, and we'll look at those things and say, do we wanna push this one off for another year? Do we wanna do this now? What's our budget look like? So, the SIP committee doesn't have any power. All it does is it makes recommendations to the select board. The select board has the authority to do everything. But we have in the
Yeah.
past had, I'm just starting to lose my voice, town members on the board. There's been,
Roger Becker, I think,
yeah, Mr. Becker and,
Sue Roth was on
Sue
it.
Roth and Roy Fanjoy. And some of the
In the past, we've also had Barbara
Corliss.
Corliss.
yeah, and you were on it too.
I'm not, yeah.
Yeah, Paul was on it. But if you know of anybody who would like, I think it involves like one meeting.
Well, when we first did this, it took us a whole summer,
Yeah,
because we hadn't done it for a long time. But now that we have it done, it's on paper, it's just a matter of updating the records. Yeah, one meeting, maybe two at the most. It should be done.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Because I think we did this, last year via Zoom or whatever we did,
Yeah,
because we weren't meeting.
we had one in-person meeting and then
Yep.
some other discussions with Dana.
Yep.
But Dana's pretty much on this. I mean,
Got it under control.
he's got it under
So
control.
basically, you send out to all the department heads a request of what they want, needs and wants for the next year, actually for the
Next 5 years.
5 years.
So it's
and then-
not, it's,
and
these
then
are, these are items that are not line item budget items.
Right.
It's the wish list.
Over and
The wish
above.
list that costs
The over and
$5,000 or
above.
more.
It's like your road stuff, like what roads are we gonna work on, we save for it in the trust funds. It's like, for example, the copier machine downstairs, we put a little money aside every year for when that eventually dies, so we don't help the taxpayers all at once for a new copier, that
Or
sort
the
of
money
stuff.
towards the next cruiser.
Or the next
right, that sort of thing.
cruiser, those are the kind of things that they bring up, so that we can start saving now to replace it eventually when we need to.
And I must say, in the past, we have a bunch of, a number of capital funds,
Capital
The-
reserve funds, yep.
capital reserve funds that, for example, the cruiser, we put money aside every year, so when the
Yeah.
time comes to buy the cruiser, we got the money.
Yeah,
And that's true of some of the other things, and that's a really, really smart way of doing it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
You don't have to pay
absolutely.
the interest on
saves
it.
it all at one time and taxes up, right?
Well,
You thank the school
I
for
mean-
that.
You're not scrambling at the last minute to figure out where the hell we're gonna get the money to buy a new cruiser or fire engine or something.
It's good, it's good the
Yeah.
way they got it set up.
It
It's
is
fine.
good.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any suggestions of people who you think might be good to get on this committee and interested in this? I mean, I'm looking for,
I was gonna send emails to the last, to Sue Roth and
yeah.
Roger Becker and see if they were still interested.
How do you kind of get it out? But see, the only, it would be nice to get it out to the public of the town. Because sometimes if you stay in your little hacienda and don't get out much, you don't even know a lot of the stuff that's going on. Not that that's an excuse, so don't get me wrong, but, in the same token, you know, it would be good to have a board, and I guess I don't even really know a lot of the people, so I shouldn't even be saying this, but somebody that's got some business interests, some, you know, just, you know, try to mix up it a little bit. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree entirely.
Maybe it could go in the grapevine.
Would that be a weird thing to do?
No.
Because I just think at least it gets it out there, you know, a little, with not too long of an explanation of what it's about, you know, try to
I think
synopsize
we've
it.
put it in the grapevine before, and I think we've also put it on the town's website.
Yeah,
Usually
And the
don't
town
get a
website,
response.
yeah, well, and then that could be, hey, that's,
That's why we usually say it's like if you know somebody you think would be good at it.
Well, yeah, I
Give
mean,
them
there's
a tap.
some business people around, I mean, I don't know, personally know, like, this.
What's it, just a couple of nights, is that all it would be?
Yeah,
I wouldn't have a problem with it if
you are my longtime buddy, man.
but they may not like me. Cause I'm cheap.
and since when has that bothered you?
No, it doesn't, nothing bothers me like that at all, that's just, that's don't
Yeah,
bother
from
me
what
a
they
bit.
said, it sounds like you don't have enough power to say, no, we can't do that. You just have to
No, we don't.
Give you
coordinate and put it all
advice,
together.
right.
Well, but it's
And-
good to have, when you're
Yeah.
spending that kind of money, or that wish list.
Not to get too carried away.
And
Right,
and whatever we decide gets sent to the select board, and they use it as best they can, or not use it at all.
Yeah.
So what we do is just a recommendation.
So you're on it too? You're
I've been on it in the past, yes.
So you're going back on it?
I'd like you to come if you
Yeah,
could.
okay.
And I will.
But I will tell you
Yeah.
right now, you can't schedule anything for the next 2 months, because I'm way out straight.
I am the next 1 month for sure.
So we do the
Until you
first.
get-
Actually-
until you get
Farmers
that-
busy in the
until you
summer?
get that corn chopped.
That will be the second week of
Select board's gonna be
September.
done the budget. by the time we get this-
But I got a lot of stuff right up first of October. Second week of October, I'll be freed up a little bit.
Second week of October work for you?
I would say.
Oh, go to
we
the
could probably-
third.
Yeah, we could probably get
To
it
the
to
end.
early October.
Yeah.
Okay, early
Yeah,
October.
And- yeah.
September is just
Yeah,
no good.
yeah,
Yeah,
no.
well, I agree, I'm gonna be busy in September too.
And I don't think we're gonna need it anyway, because you gotta get the letters sent out to the departments.
Already
They
happened.
don't always get back to you
Right.
right away.
That's a
It's all
good,
cool.
good point.
No.
Yeah,
It may be November before we can make any kind of.
That would be good if it
Told
works for
everybody to be
you.
ready by September first.
Yeah. Cause I
And
got,
we have to get it to the select board for
I was hoping to get it
January,
to the
February.
select board by October, because they start the budget in October.
Hmm.
And apparently we're starting that early this year, so they're trying to start at the end of September. Well, you'll find
Well,
out about
that's-
that at the next
Oh,
meeting.
good.
that's kind of optimistic because just like us being busy, you know,
Yeah,
the town departments are pretty busy. and
I'm,
so-
I'm sure we can work through it.
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine.
There again, it's a wish list. There
I mean,
again,
it is what it is.
there's a lot of expenses that are,
If it works
We're-
out that it happens
we're not all
in
gonna want them to be
mid-October or
anyways this year,
something,
right?
I'll be able to, we'll just have to pick
Yeah, okay.
We'll make
a
it work.
good day.
Okay, so we're on to item number 9, any other new business?
I have one item I wanna talk about.
Yes?
Final occupancy permits for buildings under construction is done by the fire chief and the building inspector. At the moment, we have nothing that tells us that driveway has to be final before occupancy permit is given. This is just some food for thought. I've talked to Russell, and he tells everybody the same thing. The driveway has to be final before you get an occupancy permit. But I think we should have something on paper somewhere.
Well, what do you mean by final? I mean, some people are happy with a gravel driveway.
So,
The driveway itself, it has to be final before people can live in the house.
What does final mean?
Yeah.
final means
You
that it's
have
been
two
built.
phases of your driveway.
Okay,
First
probably
one-
the first phase.
First one is a construction permit.
Yep, yep,
They build a driveway to the specifications that we have approved. Then we go back out, members of the planning board and fire chief, whoever wants to come out. Road agent, usually it's Emmett, which he's both.
right.
And then we go out and we make sure that the driveway is built to the standards that we set forth. That's the front, then we sign off as a final.
And that's
But the
because it's a
final is not
construction.
signed off until the house is completely built.
You're just, what you're concerned about is when you give a construction permit, that means it doesn't have to meet all the regs at that point?
Construction permit has to meet the regulations that they set forth in a diagram.
Okay, so then why, and then why you wouldn't sign, and then it's constructed and then you would like to be able to sign off on it, or do you do that already?
He just
We-
doesn't-
We will sign off on the construction permit, give
Right,
them the okay.
So
to
they
do
got
that.
the plan
Case-
and
Case
they-
in point, that Mr. DeBello last month was in here, and we gave him a construction permit.
right, right,
Which needs to be signed off by both the planning board member and the fire chief road agent, which has not been done because we don't have the state permit. I'm a stickler for following some of the rules, so that's why I haven't signed off. But either way, we've had one incident right now, and I thought we had two, but we've only had one, where the occupancy permit was given, but the driveway was never finalized.
what was missing on the driveway, that, something that they had said they were gonna do and they didn't do it?
No, it was just never given to the planning board member, which in the case was myself, for us to do a final. It was bypassed. That's the only one instance that I can tell you right now. But I don't know how many
Is that-
more we've got out there. We've got a lot of driveways out there that have gone past their 2-year period.
Is that recent, Paul?
It's within the last 6 or 8 months.
Can we send them a letter or go?
No, well, no, the driveway was fine. So once I learned of this, I had Russell pull out the permit and we signed it.
Oh, okay.
But I'm just saying, this could be a problem down the road, or it could not.
So the
somebody-
people just didn't follow through. They didn't
Well, a
follow.
lot of times I wait for them to tell me that they're done with the construction of the driveway, and then they let me know, and then I send
Yeah.
Paul or Emmett out. Sometimes they just never let us know. And that's sort of
And
one of the problems.
theoretically, you could have a place where they were given the construction permit for the driveway. They got their building permit, they finished the house, never finished the driveway, and it could be one that you would not have approved, because it doesn't.
It is possible,
Yeah, and I guess I can see that that could be a problem. For example, the one that we took such time over, down on Dustin Road.
Yep.
If they had built their house and gotten an occupancy permit, and the driveway was still way too long, way too sharp turns,
Currently, my policy is, as Paul said, if they were issued a driveway permit, construction permit as part of the building permit packet, everything's gotta be signed off on before, and as complete before you get your certificate of occupancy.
okay.
However, there were still some building permits from before, when I took over, and those people were not given those same requirements.
Okay.
Which I believe is the one Paul is talking about, that was one issued before I started as an employee, and they were told different things. And I don't wanna make new rules for new people,
Yeah,
that they were already had an agreed on with the town before for this, and change it. That's my opinion.
So you feel like, you're feeling that you would like to see that to make it clearer for you, or do you already feel like you're handling that?
I'm doing my best to handle it the way it is currently, but I think that is something that would give it more strength, is to have an amendment, say in the driveway regulations, that would be a requirement for any home construction being finalized.
Well, I was thinking either that or a paper that you would hand out with the building permit separately, so they would know they've been told.
Yeah, because I can include that. That's just the thought, and me and Paul have talked about this several times, because that is one of the biggest things, and I'm trying to get a spreadsheet together with all the permits that are still outstanding, so we know when the 2 years expires, so I can reach out to them and send them a letter to ask if their driveway's
Not
done.
that would be that would be good.
Yeah,
Because it sounds like going forward, things that you're
I'm trying to make it work with what I
Yeah.
have.
And we appreciate
Yeah,
Yes, very much.
it. Any more,
put you in for a race.
any more new business? Okay,
I move we adjourn.
I second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I've got a daughter visiting from out of town, I wanna get.
Nice.
I was gonna say, woo.
I got a cow that's just about ready to calve.
You better
Hopefully
get
it
home.
hasn't calved yet.
Well,
Right.
unless everything went well and now you don't have to deal, you don't have
No, that usually,
to, you don't have to stick your
it's
arm
one
up
that we
and-
just bought and I don't know her, so it's like,
All right, let me turn the
could be
recording
me.
off.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
We'll
guys.
see you guys.
I won't see you for 2 months.
No, have fun over there.
There was one more, but I'll leave it.
Thank you.